Hello and welcome to tonight's presentation. We're here today to talk about everything you need to know to be prepared for fall quarter at Walla Walla University. Over the last few weeks, we've gone over the ins and outs of living on our campus and gone through the steps of the financial clearance process. If you missed out on any one of those presentations or want to review some information, you can find recordings of them at wallawalla.edu/workshops. Again, that's wallawalla.edu/workshops. My name is Trevor Congleton, and I'm the Associate Vice President for Marketing and Enrollment Services. I'm here to introduce our subject experts and help answer any questions you may have along the way. Before we jump into the presentation, I'd like to just say a quick word of prayer, inviting our Heavenly Father to join us for this. If you guys would bow your heads with me, I'd appreciate it. Dear God, we just would like to invite you into the discussion we're going to have tonight, be with our presenters as well as our audience members. We're really excited to welcome them onto your campus this coming fall, and just be with us as we spend a little time this evening talking about your campus. We love you so much, and thank you for all the blessings you've given us in your name. Amen. Okay, tonight we've got several subject experts with us. The first is Carrie Butler, who is one of our financial aid counselors, who'll be talking about finances and student employment, because that's pretty regular questions we get from families and students. And the second is going to be David Ringer, Walla Walla University's Director for Residential Life and Off-Campus Housing, to talk about student life and the housing experience. At any time during this presentation, if you have a question, you can ask it by typing it in the chat box on the right side of your screen. We'll get to all of your questions at the end of this presentation, which should take us around 20 to 30 minutes. If you'd like to download the slides that we'll be covering in this presentation, you can download them through the link in the panel on the right side of your screen. Okay, let's get started right at the very beginning with My WWU. You've probably already had some interactions with this, but it's pretty important, so I want to make sure everyone is on the same page. MyWWU is our online student portal where you can see your class schedule, your account balance information about financial aid, account transactions, your grades, and how much you spent at the Cafeteria Express. This is also where you begin the financial clearance process and where you will finalize registration during Jumpstart. Right now, the most important thing for you to pay attention to is your to-do list. You can find that on the right side of your MyWWU account where it says Student App Center, and you want to go to where it says, I think it's Student Center Classic. So you'll click that and it will go into the area where you can see your to-do list as well as class schedule. You can access this list, like I said, in MyWWU, and it notes the things that you have left to complete before the year begins. Right now, you'll probably see things like financial clearance, maybe some other financial aid information that we're looking to get from you, and some forms to fill out. On each one of those items, you can click on it for more information, and there are usually instructions for how to complete the task. As soon as you were accepted, you received login instructions for MyWWU and were asked to choose a password. If you've never logged in before, you'll find that it's pretty easy to do once you set that. For most of you, your username will be your first name, period, last name, and whatever password that you chose. If for some reason you didn't create your login or you've never logged into MyWWU, you'll want to get that set with our IT help desk. They can help reset your password. They can help you set it if you missed the initial email. That's going to be important. So you'll want to call them during regular business hours, or you want to email them. Their business hours that they're open is 8 to 5 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and then 8 to noon on Friday. If you send them an email, make sure to include your name, Walla Walla University ID number, and your phone number in case they need to call you. Another important note is that parents, the help desk will only talk to students about their account info. So if they need assistance, they'll need to be the ones to reach out to the ID department because we try to keep that information locked down. So we're following FERPA regulations, which you'll hear about a little more later. Students are given a wallawalla.edu email address, and it's important that they check that regularly. You'll receive lots of important information on your Walla Walla University email. And then once classes begin, this is the only email address the university will send email to. That's official notices, etc. So you'll want to make sure you're checking that. And your email address is usually your first name dot last name at wallawalla.edu. One thing you might be seeing on your to-do list right now is financial clearance. So I'm going to ask Carrie to come in and recap a little bit about what financial clearance is and what families should be working on right now in terms of finances. Carrie, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. If you haven't finished your financial aid application, you should do that immediately. Right now, we can send a financial plan within days of receiving your application, but as we get closer to starting school, the delay will increase. And if we're missing anything from you for this process, it will be on the to-do list that Trevor just mentioned. If you have questions about financial clearance, I recommend watching a recording of the presentation we did last week about the process. We cover everything in detail there. But to quickly review, financial clearance is a process that all students go through each quarter, and it checks to make sure that you've made your down payment and completed any necessary forms for financial aid. The process is open right now for fall quarter, so if you haven't completed it yet, now is a good time to do it. It's a straightforward process and shouldn't take much time. The first time will take a little longer because most students will have loan forms to complete and permissions to review, but after you make your down payment, it's about a 90-second process. The deadline to complete financial clearance is 4 p.m. on the Wednesday before classes begin. If you have not completed financial clearance by then, you will be dropped from your classes. You can always register for classes again, but the class you want may have been filled from the wait list in the meantime. You can know for sure that you're done with financial clearance when you see Bouncing Ben. And when you see him, you can be confident that your classes are protected from dropping. Once you have registered for classes and completed financial clearance, you are eligible to get your ID card. Freshmen will get their ID cards during the week of Jumpstart, and you will need proof of identity, such as a driver's license, to get an ID card. Once your ID card is activated, which will happen after you've completed registration finalization, you can use it to charge meals in the cafeteria, books and supplies from the bookstore, and treats at the Express, a small mini mart and gas station. And you will also use your ID card to access dorm rooms and buildings such as the gym and library. And it's also great for getting student discounts at places around town.
Something else you might be seeing on your to-do list and something you can be working on right now is filling out your tuberculosis or TB screening form. Simply fill out this form and it will let you know whether or not you will need to get a TB test completed before school starts. The form consists of 6 questions and has step-by-step instructions. We encourage students who are identified by the screening to need further evaluation to be seen by their primary care provider and have the form completed prior to coming to Walla Walla University. Students are also required to have health insurance that they need to be able to access within the local area of the university, which actually is a federal law. Walla University does not offer a health insurance policy for U.S. students to purchase, but we do have some resources and links to the health exchange available on our website. You'll want to make sure your insurance covers providers within 25 miles of Walla Walla or whichever campus you will be on. So if you're a transfer student coming into Portland, make sure that your insurance will be accepted in the local area there. International students are automatically signed up for a health insurance plan when they come to WWU that will provide them care in the local area. Now, a lot of times we get questions about what are required for vaccinations. And essentially, we recommend that individuals receive both the MMR and meningococcal vaccines. The MMR vaccine protects against measles, rubella, and mumps, and is recommended by the CDC for students attending post-high school educational institutions who do not already have presumptive immunizations. Meningococcal disease requires close contact to spread, so it is a concern on college campuses since the vast majority of our students live closely to one another in our residence halls. Both of these immunizations are recommendations from WWU, but they are optional for students. Be aware that some WWU programs, such as nursing and education, may have specific immunization requirements related to their work with external organizations. So if you're going to be one of those majors, you may need to check with your academic program to see what those specific requirements are. Right now, many students may be thinking about finding a job on campus. We routinely get a lot of questions about this from students and parents. Carrie, can you tell us a little bit about what a student should do to find a job?
Many students don't get a job until they arrive for Jumpstart, so don't panic if you don't have a job yet. Many employers want to see your class schedule and the class schedule of returning employees before they commit to new hires. But there are a few things you can do right now to get ready. First, complete an online job application. This will be the first step for any campus job, and this same application can be used for any job you find. You do not need to complete a new application for each job on campus. Next, watch the job scene, our online job listing, to check for available jobs. If you see any that are interesting to you, contact the department and let them know. You can also contact student employment and have them forward a copy of the application you've already filled out. Now, once you have a job, there is some paperwork to complete, and all students will need to complete an I-9 form. This is used to confirm your identity as well as your eligibility to work. So when you're packing to come to school, make sure you have some form of ID, such as a driver's license or a learner's permit. You'll also need a document that provides that you are proves that you are eligible for work, and this could be something like a birth certificate or a social security card. A valid U.S. passport can be used for both requirements. However, these do need to be original documents. Photocopies can't be used. You'll need to complete a W-4 form, and that tells us how many exemptions you're claiming for tax purposes. You will also need to provide your bank account information. Either a voided check or a screen print of your bank account and routing number from your online banking profile is required. And if you're under 18, your parent will need to sign a form authorizing you to be able to work. If you are an international student, you are only eligible to work at a Walla Walla U campus job, and you'll need to file for a social security card, which can take up to a month to receive. So as you're looking for potential jobs, be sure to keep that in mind. You can find all the details about working on campus at wallawalla.edu/student-employment. You may notice on the job scene that some jobs are listed as work-study jobs. Walla Walla U participates in 2 work-study programs. One is offered by the U.S. federal government and one by the state of Washington. Only students with a work-study award in their financial aid package are eligible for these positions. For the Washington State work-study program, you must be a Washington State resident. In a work-study job, the employer receives funds from the government to help pay student wages, and this has helped expand the number of jobs available. All our on-campus jobs are open to all full-time students. The work-study eligibility requirements are for off-campus jobs that are listed as work-study. Students are paid every other week, and the first time you get paid or anytime you change your bank account information, your wages will get applied to your student account. This is because the payroll system is sending a test message to your bank to confirm the bank account information. Every payday after that, your paycheck will be automatically deposited into your bank account. However, if you want all or some of your paycheck to be applied to your student account, you can certainly set that up with student employment.
While we're talking about student wages, Carrie, can you remind us about Bank Mobile and how students interact with it?
Yes, Bank Mobile is the service we use to disperse funds from your student account to you. After you go through the financial clearance process, you will be emailed an activation link from Bank Mobile, as well as email reminders asking you to set up your disbursement method. And they'll want to know if you want disbursement sent as a paper check deposited into an existing bank account, or if you want to open a Bank Mobile checking account. We recommend that you choose to deposit the disbursement into your existing bank account. An example of when you would request a disbursement might be when that first paycheck has been applied to your student account. And if you want that money in your bank instead of your student account, you can request to have those funds, and they would be dispersed to you through whatever Bank Mobile process you've chosen.
Thanks so much for that information, Carrie. I really appreciate you talking about it. This next question is going to be for our student life expert, David Ringer. David, thank you for joining us this evening. In just a moment, would you tell us about Jumpstart and when students can move into the residence halls? Which, by the way, 2 weeks ago, we gave a full presentation all about residential housing. So if you have more questions about housing after this, I definitely recommend that you watch the recording. at wallawalla.edu/workshops for lots of helpful info. I put the link in the chat box, so feel free to do that. So, David, talk with us a little bit about Jumpstart and when students can move in.
Yes, of course. Yeah, Jumpstart is a required week of orientation for all new freshmen. During this week, students get the chance to worship together, get to know each other, attend helpful presentations, and take care of tasks such as financial clearance, lining up a job, and meeting with their academic advisors. The fee for Jumpstart includes all your meals and lodging for the week, as well as a guidebook for the week and 1 hour of college credit. All students should bring a mobile device like a smartphone, iPad, or laptop for use during the sessions you'll be attending. We will start allowing students to move into the residence hall on Sunday, September 20 for Jumpstart. You will be able to schedule your move-in appointment through Housing Cloud starting September 12. On the Sunday of Jumpstart, a number of key offices around campus will be open to assist you and your parents in checking off the last items on your to-do lists. A lot of students and families ask when they can buy their textbooks, but we recommend students wait until after they've met with their academic advisor during the Jumpstart week to purchase their books. You can purchase also log in to the bookstore's website to see what textbooks you will be needing if you've already signed up for classes. Their website is wallawalla.slingshot.edu.com, or you can search for bookstore on Walla Walla University's homepage search bar to get to their website. Okay, next, if you haven't made housing arrangements and you're planning to be in the residence hall, you should fill out the residence hall housing application online. Of course, you have to be accepted and have paid the enrollment fee before we can assign you a room. If you're not going to be living in the residence hall, you will need to complete a village housing approval form that tells us where you will be living. As a general rule, we expect our incoming freshmen to live in the residence hall unless they meet one of the exceptions listed on the screen. If you're eligible to live outside the residence hall and have not applied for housing, please complete an online application at wallawalla.edu/village. We sometimes get questions from families and students on how Walla Walla University communicates with students during emergency situations that may arise throughout the school year. All of our students are automatically enrolled in a system called OmniAlert. This is our emergency campus alert system. In an emergency, students will receive alerts via text messages and emails, and in addition, our campus siren will sound. You can find more information about this system at wallawalla.edu/OmniAlert. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what the move-in process will look like. This is absolutely one of my favorite times of the year. The residence life staff will have spent about 2 weeks training and preparing themselves and the residence halls for you to move in and to make that move-in process a smooth transition. To provide you with the best possible check-in experience, we require that students sign up for a check-in appointment. On the day of your appointment, please arrive at the designated check-in area on time. Residence hall staff will greet you and assist you in filling out housing documents. And once checked in, residents may begin to move into the residence hall and unpack with those assisting you. Please remember to arrive at the time you've been signed up for to ensure that the process moves smoothly. Additional move-in information such as maps and designated check-in areas and short-term and long-term parking can be found on the website. If you have any questions about this, just drop them in the chat box now and we'll answer them at the end. We'll be sending out more detailed information to see you as we get closer on move-in day.
Thanks, David. That's really helpful information. Another thing that we get asked quite a bit about from families is about classes. So most of our incoming freshmen and transfer students are already registered for classes, and you should be able to see your class schedule in My WWU. If you're not yet signed up for classes, be sure to book an appointment with Academic Advisement at wallawalla.edu/get-my-classes. You can see the link right there, or you can give them a call to set up an appointment. If you've signed up for classes, but they aren't showing up in MyWU, make sure that you've paid your $200 non-refundable enrollment fee. If you've paid that fee, but still haven't seen your classes, please be sure to give our Academic Advisement Office a call, and they'll work it out with you. If you want to make changes to your class schedule, you can call the Academic Advisement Office, or you can wait until Jumpstart Week when you meet with your academic advisor for your designated major. That's a great time to discuss changes. All students are assigned a departmental academic advisor during Jumpstart, and the appointment will be set up for you during the Jumpstart Week. Mentors are another great resource for our students. We have a mentoring program that focuses on individualized support and encouragement as students transition from high school to college. Mentors assist in helping students take ownership and responsibility for their college education and career goals. Mentors are also trained to provide a curriculum that encourages a balanced experience of academics, spiritual life, and social life. You'll be receiving an email over the next week or two indicating that it's time for you to select your mentor by a certain date, so watch for that email. There'll be some bios of the mentors available, and you'll be able to select them, so be sure to watch for that email as it hits your inbox, like I mentioned. The mentor will be meeting weekly throughout your first year to check in with you on how your classes are going, important deadlines that are coming up, what your academic goals are, and what campus or community resources might be beneficial for your success. Students who have gone through this program tell us that having a mentor helps them feel connected and supported. We have found that freshmen who meet regularly with a mentor are more likely to stay in college. They usually get more out of their classes, and they have a better college experience overall. Also, during Jumpstart Week, you'll go through a process called registration finalization. Again, that'll happen during Jumpstart. This is a final review process that you access on your MyWU account, and it ensures that you've done everything needed to become a student at WWU. This process checks to make sure you've completed financial clearance, been assigned to classes, and met with your academic advisor. When you've completed this process, you'll see Jumping Einstein. His little picture's there. He's got a great mustache. This indicates that you finalized your enrollment and your ID card is now electronically validated for charging. This also means you'll be able to sign up for campus clubs. And now you won't actually be able to see Jumping Einstein until a little bit later into Jumpstart. So not even on the first day, because you will not have met with your academic advisor yet. So like I mentioned earlier, during the Jumpstart Week, after you've met with your advisor, completed any remaining items on your to-do list in MyWU, you'll be able to finalize registration and see Jumping Einstein on your own. Okay, Carrie, what should parents know once their students start school after Jumpstart ends?
After Jumpstart is over and we move into the school year, parents often want to know information about their student, usually what their account balance is and what their grades are. However, the university can't share this kind of information with anyone except you, the student. There's a federal law called the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, which is more commonly known as FERPA. This federal law applies to a student and begins on the first day of classes. So through Sunday prior to the first day of classes, we can talk to parents. However, once classes start, we will need to have the student's permission to speak with you. And of course, we will be very careful with what information we share prior to classes starting. This law applies to all areas of campus, but it's with finances that most parents run into FERPA. And if you're the student, we will need to have your permission before we can talk to your parent about your account. We also have to have your permission before we can mail a paper statement to your parent. It's easy for you to grant permission. On MyWWU, you can tell us who we can talk to, who we should mail a statement to, who we should send email reminders to, and who we should not talk to. You can also choose to have statements mailed to multiple people, and you can also authorize other users to see electronic statements. FERPA is the reason a parent can't call our IT department and reset your MyWWU password. Because of FERPA, the help desk can only reset the password if you, the student, contacts them. If a parent wants to see your grades, they have to get them from you. Walla Walla U doesn't mail grade reports to you or your parents. You will be able to see your grades on MyWWU as soon as the teacher has submitted the grades. And so you get to see them at the same time we get to see them.
Fantastic. Thank you, Carrie. Very helpful information. Okay, this brings us pretty much, we're about to the end of the topics that we've planned to cover for this evening. But before we get to the question and answer period, which if you have a question we haven't answered yet in the presentation, make sure you're putting in that chat box now, and we'll get to it here in just a minute. On your screen though now, you can see a list of the steps to enrollment that you can follow to make sure that you've done everything you need to before school starts. That list can be found at wallawalla.edu/new steps. And this list will give you general instructions on how to complete each necessary step before school starts. And if you ever have any questions, feel free to give our office a call. We are happy to help you out. Also, don't forget to be checking your to-do list in MyWU for your personalized and actively updating enrollment steps. All right, let's talk a little bit about dates as you guys are continuing to ask your questions in the chat box. A big thank you to David and Carrie. Appreciate all the great information that you guys have shared with us so far. Let's talk about what we see right here on the screen. As David mentioned earlier, the residence halls will be open for move-in by appointments on Sunday, September 20th. Jumpstart begins on the same day and will go until Friday, September 25th. This is an important week of orientation for new first-time college students, and it's honestly a lot of fun. All incoming freshmen are required to attend this week. Students that are transferring into Walla Walla University for fall quarter after having attended another college or university are being asked to arrive on Tuesday, September 22nd. This way they can join in on some of the planned Jumpstart activities for Wednesday, and then they'll have their transfer orientation on Thursday, September 24th, followed by some Friday activities as well. By Wednesday, September 23rd at 4 p.m., you should have paid your down payment, completed any necessary paperwork for student loans, and signed your financial clearance online. Student Financial Services has already sent you an email on what your next step should be. These emails went primarily to the incoming student's email address, so students be sure that you're checking your emails regularly and that you've shared that information with your parents if they're helping you with the financial clearance process. I know we mentioned this earlier, but it bears repeating. We gave a pretty good detailed presentation last week walking you through the process of financial clearance step by step, showing you the screens and answering all of your questions. And so I'd really recommend going back and looking that up as you are doing your financial clearance for the first time. Again, that you can find that at the link that I put at the very first link I sent you guys, which is wallawalla.edu/workshops. Then by Sunday, September 27th, you should have completed your registration finalization, seen Jumping Einstein, and purchased your textbooks for the quarter. And then on Monday, September 28th, you begin your college education at Walla Walla University with your first day of classes, which will come a lot sooner than we think. On the screen now, we've got some important phone numbers that you might find helpful if you have any questions after this presentation, so feel free to jot them down. If you only have time to jot down one number, I would encourage you to write down the 800-541-8900 number, which is the main line to Walla Walla University. If you call that during regular business hours, 8 to 5, Monday through Thursday, or 8 to noon on Friday, you will actually get an answer from a real person. And if they can't answer, then they'll eventually go to voicemail, which we are checking all the time. So you can ask your question there, and then we can send you to the correct department. So that's why that number is so helpful. Okay, it looks like we are ready for our question and answer period. Make sure to type your questions into the chat box on the right side of your screen as we're going. I'm going to go ahead and turn my camera on, and I will invite our experts depending on what the question is. There's Carrie. Hi, Carrie. Let's see. It looks like the first one, Carrie, is going to be for you. Hi, David, as well. Thanks for joining me. Carrie, earlier you mentioned we can use our ID cards at the Express. What is the Express, and is it connected to our meal plan or Flex dollars?
Okay, the Express is a Shell station and a mini mart owned by Walla Walla University, and you can use your ID card to charge up to $80 a month to your student account there. You can buy gas, purchase snack food, or order something from the vegetarian grill. And however, you cannot use your meal plan or your Flex dollars there. You can see your total spending on my WWU.
Great, thanks, Carrie. Next question, I'm going to take it because I talked about this subject in the presentation. Are new students required to have a mentor? Yes. All freshmen and new transfer students are going to have a mentor. Like I said earlier, our studies show that having a mentor improves your success at Walla Walla University your persistence through your college year. And we've also noticed that oftentimes people who don't initially want to mentor are the ones who end up benefiting the most from it. They're kind of like your cheerleader throughout the year, so we feel like it's really important for them to be a part of your experience. Okay, next question is going to be for Carrie. I'm from Canada. Can I work on campus?
Yes, as long as you have a student visa, you can work on campus. If you're not a U.S. resident, you aren't eligible to work off campus. Before you start to work, you will need to have a U.S. Social Security card, which can take up to a month to receive.
All right, next one is going to be for you, David. I'm coming to Walla University from far away. When am I allowed to move into the residence hall?
Yeah, that's a great question. Students coming to Walla Walla from farther than 400 miles away from campus are allowed to move in prior to the Sunday of Jumpstart. You just need to schedule your move-in appointment. You can do that by going on your Housing Cloud portal and schedule an early move-in so that we can make sure that we've got your room prepared before you arrive.
Great. And can I ask you a follow-up on that, David? If
Sure.
I remember right, they cannot move in during Sabbath hours, correct?
That is correct. We ask that during, Friday sundown to Sabbath, Saturday sundown, that there be no moving in. That is correct.
Good. I want to make sure the audience knows that one. Okay, it looks like we have 2 questions that have been asked that I'm going to get to in just a minute. So we're getting close to the end of the question answer period. If you've got a question and you would like to ask Carrie or David or myself, feel free to put it in the chat box now as we are answering potentially the last 2. How long, this might be a question for you, David. It's how long does it take to process the parking permits? Can it be completed prior to move-in day?
Yeah, you can get online and actually fill out that registration. I don't know the exact day that opens up, but I know that people, when they're coming here, many of them have already stated that they can apply for their parking permit, or definitely when they're at least moving in. But there will be an email sent out by the campus security department emailing students, like, hey, go ahead and register. I think it's like $45 for the year, which is it's pretty cheap, to have, a parking permit, and then you're all set and ready to go.
Great. Next question, and let's see if either one of you know it. How do you upload a photo for student ID on the Walla Walla website? I've gone to MyW and do not see an option anywhere and don't know how to get to PeopleSoft. So for those of you who don't know, PeopleSoft is kind of the database software that we use at the institution. And then MyW is kind of something that will pull information from there. So there's a little bit of difference between MyW and PeopleSoft, but MyW heavily uses PeopleSoft for a lot of its information. Do either of you know anything about like that ID photo upload process?
I would reach out to the help desk at wallawalla.edu.
Yeah.
I know they make the ID cards in IT, so I'm sure they'd be familiar with the process and how to get that.
I think too that like it is not imperative that you have all of your ID stuff set up before you come. There's going to be a number of students that are here for Jumpstart that are getting their ID once they are on campus. I'm sure they'll talk about it some at the Jumpstart like sessions to make sure that everybody is able to get that and all that. So I wouldn't worry about that so much right now. But if you're like, hey, I really want to make sure it's all set up before, call the IT help desk, like Carrie mentioned. I think that would be good. We got another question. It looks like this one's gonna be for you, David. Can you bring furniture into the residence hall?
So the general answer is no. We have allowed with special permission, like if they have a favorite desk chair, if they're like, hey, can I bring like my office chair? They can arrange and, maybe email us, at residence halls and request that. But so we've allowed that, but basically the furniture that's in there for set up for 2 people is the furniture that's in there. And we have had some couches in the past. We have seen some of those, Trevor. The problem is they don't necessarily want to always take care of them at the end. And, we're like, how's this couch, going to leave, so if you are bringing in something like that, it definitely is your responsibility to care for it at the beginning, at the end. A typical answer, hey, can I move? I am getting a room to myself, a solo room, and can I move like one of the desks? Can I move one of the beds out? The answer is no. The furniture that's in there for the two. I mean, you can bunk the bed, create floor space, but you need to work with the furniture in there as a general rule.
So basically, David, if they are thinking about moving a couch or something in, they need to get prior permission from the residence hall, is what it sounds like.
We would appreciate that. Not everybody does, but that would definitely help. When they move in, there is a check-in form, and and they can put down personal this. They're not going to need desks. They're not going to need beds, mattresses. We have all that. So it is cumbersome. I know people are more comfortable having a couch, but we do ask that you take care of it on both sides, so that you're not getting improper checkout fees by leaving stuff that you should have been taken care of.
Great. Appreciate the answer to that one. I think it's also important, those of you that may have a lot of questions about what you can and can't bring into the residence hall. That was the first actual workshop we did 2 weeks ago, where we covered a lot of information about what you can and can't bring. All those kinds of things are going to be really helpful. So if you haven't watched that yet, I'd highly encourage you to do that. That'll give you a lot of information. That's at that wallawalla.edu/workshops. A good resource for you that will answer a lot of your questions. And also a thing to remember too is that likely a lot of you coming will have a roommate. What you don't want is both of you bringing a couch or bringing too large of any kind of furniture. And so trying to think ahead about those things, because there's not a ton of floor space. So kind of think some of those things through before you are trying to figure out what you're going to bring up would be a really good, strong recommendation. So yeah, good advice, David. Next question I have, and I've got another one that came in, is are you allowed to use bed risers?
Yes, that's a great question. Only the ones that we would provide, is the specific answer to that. We want to make sure that they are safe, so they cannot bring their own, bed risers. If they want to bunk their beds, we are more than happy to, assist with that to create the floor space, So.
Yeah, that's good. Want to make sure that nobody's crashing in the middle of the night down with something broken would not be great. So you guys have some that they can come and get if they need them, correct?
Yes, that is correct. Hey, Trevor, I wanted to cycle back if I could briefly. You had mentioned ID cards, and
yeah,
students, it's really important to keep up with the ID card, for proxy access into the dorms, into the to the door system, into to get into the hallways. And so having that ID card, sure, eat at the cafeteria, knowing your number, but having that for proxy access, in different areas, whether it's there at the WEC, whether it's on the hallways, in the dorm. It's just one of those things that I can't emphasize enough the importance of having that, getting it early, getting it on time, and hanging on to that.
Yeah, because do you use that to prox into your room in the residence hall?
Yeah. So in Foreman Hall, we use that to get into the room. We use that in Conard Hall, and in Sittner Hall. We actually, those that are in Mesky, we actually have a physical key. So they would proxy into the front door, the side doors, as long as it's, during the middle of the day. So really, all the dorms, with the exception of Mesky, yes, that is what they use to actually get into their room. So cool. pretty important to have that.
You will definitely want to get that when you get here, for sure. Okay, another question is, will there be a disposal bin to discard cardboard boxes, etc. after move-in?
Yes, we have dumpsters that like in the back of Sittner, for example, I'm thinking of that. One of the dumpsters says cardboard only. We do ask that they break down the boxes. Sometimes we find a massive refrigerator, like a refrigerator box. It's not broken down and it takes up a fifth of the dumpster. And anyway, so if we could, please encourage them to break down the boxes. But yes, we do supply areas that they can put their cardboard boxes.
Great. You talked about fridges for a second, what actually is a great segue into a question that came in. For a student that has diabetes supplies that needs to be stored in the fridge to keep cool, can they bring a small fridge in their room?
So yes, if you get online, you can check on what you can bring, and a small dormitory fridge is acceptable. Yes, you can have. So I would encourage them before they, bring appliances, look at the approved appliances and look at the ones that you shouldn't have. Typically, the ones that you shouldn't have are, fire hazards, but a fridge is definitely appropriate, Trevor. Yes.
Great. And like we said, like with the furniture stuff, like it's always important to be talking with your roommate. So rather than you two both bringing like a full-size fridge or something crazy that would take up a ton of your floor space, make sure you've kind of figured out, hey, are you bringing like a half fridge? Do I need to bring that? Can I bring a microwave? Kind of think that through as you're figuring out what kind of stuff you'll need when you're up here. Okay, this looks like this might be the last one unless another one comes in while I ask it or you guys are answering it. Can I have an air fryer in my room? It says yes on the website.
So yes, they are allowed to have an air fryer in their room. Cycling back to the refrigerator, the max is 4.5 cubic feet. So make sure that you stay within that. So yes to the air fryer.
Great. What a great question to end on. Air fryers are fantastic. All right, everybody, that looks like it brings us to the end of our question and answer period. I'd like to thank David Ringer and Carrie Butler for sharing their expertise with us this evening. And I also want to thank Kevin Gabriel, who you've not seen, but he's been running the software behind the scenes for this presentation. So big thank you to him too. And also, most importantly, I want to thank all of you for spending about an hour, 45 minutes with us this evening. We really appreciate that you watched this presentation and interacted with us. I hope it was helpful and that you feel prepared for starting fall quarter at Walla Walla University. If you missed our previous presentations, remember you can watch them, the recordings of those at wallawalla.edu/workshops. Also, we'd love to have your feedback about today's presentation. When we sign off, please take a moment to take a brief survey at wallawalla.edu/comment. We'd really like to know what you thought and how we can make this presentation even better for the participants next time. If you think of something you forgot to ask, you can always give us a call at 800-541-8900 or email us at info@wallawalla.edu. We look forward to seeing you on campus in just a few weeks, and we wish you and your families all the best.